That conceptual plan video.
Just to share.
Ready?
And people are
It's, we call the work session to order. I'll just hand it over to Cal.
Perfect. Mayor and council, good evening. So in January of 2020, we started what would be part one of this discussion about this service line warranty program from HomeServe. The purpose behind having these discussions is because per municipal code, laterals for sewer from the main to the homes and water services from the meters to the homes are the responsibility of the property owner, not the city. We don't maintain and can't maintain those, so goes on to them to maintain. And so what we offered to you in January of 2020 was this program that the city would endorse, and it's a warranty program where they'll buy in, and Dennis will go through all of that with you. There were some questions that came out of the early presentation. Then we hit the outbreak of COVID immediately right after, and so we're just now kind of resuming discussion. Not to the radar yet. So that I give you Dennis Ryan. Present. Questions?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And as I mentioned to Dave earlier, fun fact, this is the site of my last in-person city council meeting before COVID shut everything down in Oregon. I had two in Utah in March, and then that's when our company said no more travel. So it's like fast forwarding through time, although it went really slow at the same time. At any rate, I know some of you were here 2 years ago, so this might be some good refresher for you. And for those of you that weren't here, I'm just going to go through the specifics of the National League of Service Line Program, what it does, how we partner with communities to make it available, how it can benefit communities, and so like. That being said, again, what we're discussing is the National League of City Service Line Program. And this statement here is one that just kind of encapsulates what it is that we do. Basically, the NLC Service Line Program helps residents understand what their lateral line responsibilities are before they have an unexpected issue, and it allows them to choose how they wish to prepare for what could be a potentially expensive problem. Our program increases the quality of life within your community, and by helping the residents when they need it the most, while also reducing the number of distress calls that the city receives from homeowners when they have these issues. Sorry, I forgot. So we've been offering this program for over 18 years.
Could you speak closer to the microphone?
Sure, I'm sorry.
It's for the recording.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry about that.
No.
We've been offering this program for over 18 years now. We're an accredited Better Business Bureau with an A+ rating. We've had the endorsement of the National League of Cities since 2010, and you can see we've also been endorsed and are a business partner of the League of Oregon Cities. I believe that endorsement has been for 4 years now that we've enjoyed that relationship. Like, the reason we exist is because obviously infrastructures are a problem. That's a word we've been hearing an awful lot lately. Just to give you kind of a quick overview, you look at what the American Society of Civil Engineers graded our infrastructure in 2017. They gave us a D for drinking water and a D+ wastewater. There's all the billions that need to be spent to get us just to where we need to be.
When you say us, who are you referring to?
This is the entire country.
Okay.
So this is not broken down by state.
Thank
you. Oregon, actually, if I recall, I have a website bookmark that has each state. I think Oregon rated a little bit higher. I think you're in the C range, if I recall correctly. So not quite as bad. And then, of course, with COVID, there was revenue loss through utilities and so on that presented challenges as well. Really, one of the biggest issues here is that not only is aging infrastructure a problem for cities and utilities, but it's a problem for homeowners as well, because those lateral lines are subjected to the same problems as the public lines. The difference is on the public side, it's typically maintained and upgraded. On the private side, homeowners are just kind of left behind to fend for themselves. If something happens, it's up to them to deal with it. Lots of issues associated with failed private laterals, water being wasted, environmental hazards, and so on. Increases costs for both the utility and for the homeowners, because you have to raise their rates because you're spending more to treat water that's leaking out into the ground. And the biggest thing is there's a common homeowner misconception that the city is responsible for those lines on their property, and they typically don't find out it's their responsibility until they have a problem. They call the city and somebody has to tell them this is your issue to deal with. So their next step is they typically call their homeowner's insurance provider and find out that it's not part of standard homeowners coverage. And now they're really upset because they have no place to turn. So we help reduce wasted time, money, and resources for the city, as well as reducing frustration for those homeowners. Some of the things that they experience, really the top one I would say is just the fact that 62% of Americans say that they can't afford even a $500 emergency. And obviously water and sewer line issues can easily exceed that amount and get into the thousands. So the benefits of our program, slide please, is we're the only program that's endorsed by the National League of Cities and the League of Oregon Cities. There's absolutely no cost to the city to participate in our program. There are no public funds used, and it's a program that we administer completely. What I mean by that is it's an off-bill program. We take care of the marketing, the billing, the claims, the customer service, even setting up a local network contractor to handle the work when that comes in. There's an optional revenue share for the city, and I'll get into a little bit about how that works. But I'll mention that that's something that ties into homeowner participation. However, there's no minimum homeowner participation required for the program to be available. Every community where we're available, it's a free public awareness campaign for the city. And what we do is we educate residents on what that lateral line responsibility is and let them know that there's a voluntary coverage that's available to them that they can choose to participate in to protect themselves if they feel that it's necessary. For the folks that choose to participate, we're providing them the peace of mind of really what we call a white glove service or a one-call solution. So it's not just a matter of covering the issue, it's also handling it for them. They call us, they reach our call center in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They get to speak to a live human being. And it's 24/7 every single day of the year. And we dispatch that local contractor for them. So they don't have to go out and try to find a contractor and get quotes and do all that kind of stuff. We handle everything for them. We also pay the contractor at the completion of the work directly. So they're not having to pay out of their pocket up front and then submit to get reimbursed. We use local licensed contractors for very specific reasons. One of them is because there's a requirement that all our repairs are performed to code. Who knows the codes better than local contractors, right? Also, we put those contractors through a pretty stringent vetting process. So we're not going to just take anybody that says, yeah, we can fix leaks. It's, are you licensed, bonded, insured? You have all the necessary equipment to make the repairs. Do you have any open complaints with the Better Business Bureau? And then we'll take additional steps of background checks and drug screens to make sure that the quality of service that we expect and the quality of service that you would expect is something that we're providing to a community. So we have 3 completely separate products that we offer. And again, they're all voluntary to the homeowners. There's external water line, external sewer line, and internal plumbing. I'll go over the water and the sewer coverage together because they're essentially set up the same. And we're going to provide up to $8,500 in coverage per incident. So every time they have a problem, that's what's available to them for repair or replacement of broken, cracked, leaking pipes, tree root penetration, external water lines that are frozen that need to be thawed out, and even clogs that need to be cleared. And this is from the point of the utility connection to the home foundation. So that whole no man's land there that the city's not responsible for and is not inside the house, that's what we're going to cover. That in-home plumbing coverage, this is going to provide $3,000 or up to $3,000 again per incident. And this is for all water, sewer, and drain lines that are inside the home after that point of entry. This includes lines that are embedded in concrete, that are underneath the basement floor. It even provides coverage for clogged toilets. With all of our coverages, there are no annual or lifetime limits. There are no deductibles that have to be met before the coverage begins. There's no service fee. So when they call us and we dispatch a contractor, that's included. And there's no forms or paperwork for them to fill out because again, once they make that phone call, It's between us and the contractor to get this resolved for our customer. Homeowners can opt in or out at any time. So if they sign up, they're not locked into anything long-term. When they do sign up, there's no pre-inspection of their property before the coverage begins. After a 30-day waiting period, they're enrolled and they can file a claim that day, actually. And in the state of Oregon, we're regulated by the Oregon Construction and Contractor Board. Excuse me. There we go. So the optional revenue share. What that is it's a non-tax revenue of 10% per product per month. So for example, if a resident chooses to have both the water and sewer line coverage, you're going to get 10% of each one of those products per month. That accrues throughout the course of the year. We pay that out once a year, every January. So lots of cities that are participating in this now just got a check from us last month for their participation in this revenue component. You can use that however you want. There's no stipulation as to how these funds have to be used. It's entirely up to you. Most common ones are listed, and by far and away, the number one is a supplementing of the low-income utility assistance program or community charities. I know during COVID, a lot of our city partners were using funds to provide to local food banks to help in their communities with some of the things that were happening. And again, we want to reduce the number of calls that you're receiving from homeowners when they have those issues. I mentioned that we pay those contractors directly. One of the ways to think of that is we're helping not only to infuse money into your local economy, but paying those contractors, but also the homeowners that aren't having to pay for those repairs now are able to spend their dollars in other areas in your community as well. And again, the timely repairs that reduce all of these issues. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Keep going. I mean, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I was just gonna say the timely repairs that reduce, the water loss issues and things like that.
I was just curious, on average for a city our size, what is usually that amount in that non-tax revenue that cities receive?
So typically, I think about 2,500 households, I believe, is what we would be mailing to in this community. So you can figure after 3 years, there's typically going to be between a 10 to 15% participation. Now that's going to vary. They take one product or another, so it's hard to put a dollar amount on it, but I can give you a estimated percentage.
All about the ballpark.
participation.
Yep.
So you can kind of get a ballpark
Yeah.
from there as to what that would be.
Sure.
I was going to get into this a little bit later, but to kind of help you with that. So if you participate in the revenue component, the water coverage is $5.75 per month. Sewer coverage is $7.75 per month. And the in-home plumbing product is $9.99.
Okay.
So it'll be 10% of what that is
Mhm.
banked each month per customer.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that. I understand everything you said, but we're talking about dollar amounts. It's a little bit hard to figure. What is a comparable city? Like you have 8,000 people, but talking $3,000 or
As far as what it would cost the city to have the program?
No, but how much money you'd
the
be
revenue to come in for the 10%.
giving us back?
Okay, so
Part of it.
I'm just curious. $15,000, $2,000.
I would say for 2,700 households, maybe a few $1,000s a year,
Okay.
2,000 to 3,000. I mean, not a huge amount.
it's
Obviously,
fine.
larger. We have large partners like San Diego and Los Angeles.
No, that's fine. I'm just, so then we kind of keep it in mind.
Sure. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
It's hard to put a number on that because you don't know in a community what the
completely understand.
participation
Just
would be.
ballpark. Yeah. Thank you.
So probably a few thousand.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. So as far as our marketing approach, we only market by direct mail. So there's no telemarketers, there's no door-to-door salespeople. We're not in the business of harassing people in the community. It's more or less informing them what their responsibility is, and here's something you can do if you feel like you want to. We also limit to a maximum of 3 mail campaigns per year. So we're not going to overwhelm folks with direct mail either. One of the benefits of partnering is before those communications go out to homeowners, we're going to provide that to the city for review and input and final approval of the material before it's sent out. So you know what the message is that's being sent out in your community. You have a say in it. And if you don't like it until we get it right, that marketing material is going to, again, educate them on their responsibility and let them know that there's this voluntary service that's available to them. It also stresses that it's not the city that's offering it. It's offered by us through a partnership with the city, and it's a very clear distinction. And we do everything we can to drive all communication to us with any kind of question about what it is that we do. So the reason we do all this and what we ask for in a partnership is use of the city logo. And again, your review of that material before it's ever sent. First, for transparency of that message. Secondly, it creates an economy of scale that allows us to offer the best possible benefits at the lowest rates that we can. And it maximizes the proactive education of those homeowners all at the same time. So there's multiple benefits to doing all that. Excuse me. Just kind of some odds and ends and then some Oregon specific stuff. And then I'll address some of the things that came up after the last presentation. So currently we have over 1,000 municipalities and utilities that are participating in our program. We have over 4.7 million customers. In the last 3 years alone, we've completed 1.7 million repairs. We have saved our customers over $638 million in repair costs just in the last 3 years. And 9 out of 10 of our customers recommend us to their friends, family, neighbors, etc. As far as Oregon goes, we currently have 23 Oregon cities that we're partnering with. There are actually 12 more on this list than there were the last time I was here. So we have expanded in the state and we're helping a lot of folks here, which makes us happy. Excuse me. Now to address some of the issues that were brought up the last time. One of them was customer complaints. So as I mentioned, we have over 1,000 municipal and utility partners, and we have a customer base of 4.7 million. So we literally have millions of customer interactions per year when you look at phone, web, in person with contractors, et cetera. We take 3.5 million calls every year with questions on coverage, billing, filing claims. I mean, you name it. So when you look at the fact that we had 539 complaints with the Better Business Bureau just in 3 years' time with a customer base like that, it represents such a small percentage of the customers that we actually serve that it's pretty insignificant. But even though it is insignificant in scale, it's still something that we take very seriously because our business is customer service. Again, it's not just paying the dollars to do the repairs. It's providing the service that customers expect. So we have dedicated CAT team, which is customer advocacy team, that if there are any issues that require any kind of follow-up or a customer is not satisfied with what we've done, we've got people that specialize in getting it right for those folks. And we'll even write perceived wrong. And what I mean by that is an example I use from Clearfield, Utah. We had a customer there that was upset that we used the wrong color gravel for their backfill. Now, this is something that's going to get covered over with dirt and eventually grass or whatever else, but they didn't like the color gravel that we use for backfill. So we actually paid the contractor to go out and pull the old gravel out and put bright color gravel in. So go above and beyond to make sure everything is up to snuff. The other thing was there was a class action suit in Kansas City, Missouri, which caught me off guard because it occurred before I started with the company, and it's not something that I was aware of. And I had provided a response by email after that last meeting. But I did reach out and I'm going to read this so that I don't get any of this incorrect because it's provided by our legal counsel. So I don't want to say something that isn't factually correct to what we did. So we've been partnered with the city of Kansas City, Missouri since 2013. Currently, we have over 19,000 customers still in Kansas City with 23,655 policies. During 2015, the city changed its plumbing code to require that when found during a repair, water service lines made of galvanized steel pipe material had to be replaced. with copper pipe, and that the water meter located indoors on galvanized steel service line installation had to be moved to a meter pit outdoors as part of that repair. Our contractor services team did not notify our executive management of this issue when it occurred. So there was a period of around 9 months when we didn't fully cover the costs of those plumbing code upgrades for claims under the warranty plan. So approximately 25 of our customers paid some of those costs out of their pocket. In early 2016, 2 of those Kansas City customers filed a lawsuit against us claiming that we denied payment for repair claims in whole or in part for costs associated with replacing galvanized steel service line piping with copper pipe, or for costs associated with relocating the interior water meters to outside the water meter pits. We found out about this finally. We immediately changed our practices on galvanized lines in Kansas City, and we moved to rapidly compensate the customers who had been charged those costs. So we made everybody whole again, even though they had to pay it up front. We figured out what was going on. We rectified and addressed the situation. And basically, we settled that lawsuit just to avoid further costs and expensive litigation, but denied that we had done anything wrong because we found out that there was miscommunication and fixed it. So that settlement included the designation of a group of non-damaged customers to receive notice as part of the class action. So basically, we had to mail approximately, at that time, we had 9,500 customers roughly that we had to send letters to inform them of this suit. Or all customers that had purchased a plan in effect on February 17, 2016 were made part of that and received notice as well. Settlement received final approval from the court in November of 2017. And again, Kansas City, Missouri is still an active partner because we handled this properly for them, and they were happy with how we dealt with the situation. And with that, if there are any other questions or anything you'd like me to address, I'm happy to do so.
I've got a question. About contact information, do you expect city just provide that information, the contact information, mailing addresses?
As far as,
You send out your letters to the people in the city.
okay. I'm sorry. I didn't understand your immediately what your question was. So yes, so there's 2 different ways that you can do that. Some cities will provide us that information, and that's by far the most accurate, so that we're only reaching the homeowners that you actually serve with water and sewer service. Some cities choose not to provide that information. In that case, we use the third-party mailing service that we use to print and distribute the letters. They have a Zip +4 service that they can pull that information from to reach the property owners. So it's really entirely up to you on what your preference is.
Do we have a policy for that? We were dealt with that before. How would we normally handle that?
I'd have to look into that. I'm not
Find
sure.
out
Off the top
later,
of-
huh?
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I want to look into it.
And I had one other question too. Pre-existing conditions. Is that like my neighbor just had the bathroom and had clear out all the bathroom flooring and stuff. Apparently been going on for a few months anyway. And so that would be covered under the home part of it. But if it had started like, I don't know when it started, but is that something that you guys deal with, or would that just be not something you could?
So the honest answer to that question is we have the 30-day waiting period, and there's no pre-home inspection.
Okay.
So really what we say is pre-existing conditions are on the honor system. You know, if somebody calls us up after 30 days and says, I have a leak, and that's all they say, you know, we're going to send somebody out.
Good presentation too. Thank you.
So Miller.
Dennis, I have a few questions. So HomeServe is the actual carrier then?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, the parent company.
okay. And to your knowledge, are there homeowners insurance policies that cover some of the same or some of the same coverage that you are offering?
To my knowledge, there are homeowners insurance providers in some cases that will have a rider that folks can add. It's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison because it doesn't provide the level of service that we provide. It's more of an add-on to their insurance. Meaning that when they file a claim, it's up to them to get the contractor and pay up front and submit for reimbursement and follow those typical channels like you would when making an insurance claim. Whereas ours is more of a service contract, if you will, where we're not only promising the coverage, but the service as well. So there are other options that folks can look into. It's just not a direct comparison.
Thank you. And then the coverage levels that you have listed on page 9 of the slide here, for example, the first one says exterior water and sewer up to $8,500 coverage per incident. There's no cap, so they can have multiple incidents and you guys are going to pay, there's no aggregate limit?
Correct. It's a per incident limit. There's no annual or lifetime limit associated with those.
Okay. And I would assume that your company reserves the right to cancel a policy at any time too, or how does that work?
I would have to look into the specific terms of the agreement for that. I don't know that I'm familiar enough with that clause to give you a definitive answer right now, if that's okay. I would assume that there's probably a way that we could cancel just as a homeowner is able to opt out. But I'd like to check into that specific language for you and give you the specific terms on that.
As far as your marketing goes, do you guys target like newer housing or older housing, or is it an even marketing effort? Obviously, my gut tells me that older homes are probably going to have more claims than newer homes. So when you do your direct mailing, for example, do you evenly distribute those direct mailers?
So every property owner that you provide with water and sewer service will receive the opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the reason that I thought it would be worth our time to bring this back around is because 3 to 4 times a year, I get a phone call about somebody who's preparing to sell their home and they had their home inspected. When they TV the line, they'll find that there's a flaw in the sewer, whether it's a broken pipe, root intrusion, whatever may be going on. And when they find out that it's on them, obviously they're not excited to hear that. And that does happen quite often in a year. And this program would take care of that issue. The other thing that happens frequently is people have water leaks on their side of the line. And with these new meters, we're probably going to see a larger surge of people finding this information out. Once again, this program would help those folks take care of those issues that they don't currently know they have. So that's why I thought there'd be some, at least being responsible to at least represent this again and see if this is something. And we're not asking for anything other than, I guess, just if you guys have the desire to pursue this, or if we just want to say now we're good without it, or whatever the council chooses. If there's more questions, we can gladly take that back and get answers and bring them to you at another time.
It's just, for me, my question is, are there other companies that provide the exact same service? I
Not
don't
that I'm-
understand why we have to say it's okay for a company to come in to sell people service to their homes. If I today wanted to pick up the phone and call home service and say, yeah, I want this policy, would you sell it to me?
This is something that's only available via the partnership because of trying to get the mass message out to educate everyone about what their responsibility is. If people receive something and they're not familiar with what it is they're receiving, their chances of even reviewing it or thinking that it's something that's not on the up and up diminishes greatly.
I sell Medicare plans. Every client I see has a stack at least this thick of mailers, so I understand that part of it.
I worked for United Healthcare. I used to be in the Medicare.
Oh,
business
so
as well.
sell for United Healthcare.
6 years I was an agent.
No, it's just to me, it sounds like a good product.
Well,
I just don't understand why they just can't sell it into any community they want. I don't get that.
because the partnership there is you have the option here for the city to receive some revenue off of it and put our letterhead as a support of this program was what first presentation touched on.
Marketing.
Yep.
That's
We are.
kind of
Yep.
why the endorsement by.
I mean, to me, it makes sense that if we've sort of given you our blessing, then citizens are going to be a little more interested in actually reading your mailer or taking it seriously. I totally get that from your perspective. I would assume that if this is something that we're going to pursue, that on our end, we would be more clear in our water bill or something ahead of time, reiterating what the responsibility of the homeowner is. I mean, just some sort of public education in our newsletter. I think that's doing our due diligence again, like we've reminded people about sidewalks, et cetera. This is another thing clearly people aren't aware of. And then, you swipe it and send your mailer. But I think whether we go with this or not, I just think it is important that we educate the public in some fashion.
And if there are other programs, I'm sure that you have the right to do that. It's just like buying a used car warranty.
Totally.
Right for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people elect to do it.
Mhm.
It'd be a good fit for them.
It's like the fire med stuff with the fire district, right? I mean,
I get the positives, and I'm just asking the tough questions, so I apologize in
Oh, that's
advance.
fine, that's
I
fine.
fully see the positives.
I feel bad that I didn't know the answer to that one, the exact language, so I will get that for you though.
Understood. My question is for our city legal counsel, and obviously this program seems to pivot on the fact that we would have to endorse it in some way. So if the city endorses it, then I would be concerned about us becoming party to a lawsuit if there were an issue, just like the Kansas City one. So how would that be handled if you fail to? There's an allegation that you fail to uphold your contractual obligations under this policy. Are they going to name the city as party, and then are you going to indemnify the city if that does happen? My question is more towards our legal counsel.
I can actually answer that if you don't mind, because that's part of the agreement that we have, that we do have indemnification language in our agreement.
Perfect.
And also, even with what happened with Kansas City, in the history of the program, no city has ever been named in any type of legal issues that have been brought forward.
I think there are a couple of questions for council. The first is, do you want to endorse certain products that are being offered to consumers and to allow your logo to be used as part of that? And I think that the question then becomes, in what instances would you want to do that? So if a competitor of theirs were to want to come to the city, what would you do with that then? How much time do you want to spend vetting or doing due diligence on different people that offer products to the city? And then kind of a secondary issue would be, if the city's logo is being utilized, then what steps do we need to take to make sure consumers really understand that this isn't the city offering the product? Because oftentimes when you see a logo of an entity, what you're believing is that entity might be the one that's offering the product. Just in looking at the presentation today, I mean, it says the National League of Cities. And then, I mean, I think a lot of people were to read this and think this is the National League of Cities program. And really, it's a program offered by a company based out of the United Kingdom. And that probably pays a certain percentage to the National League of Cities. So I don't know what the business arrangement is between the National League of Cities, but it doesn't appear to be that it's their program. It appears to be a private company that offers these services, with different utility providers. So it's not just cities. It's if there's someone else offering water or sewer, HVAC, that they would partner with that organization as well.
Mr. Mayor, if the city decides to move forward with this, is there a agreement that you would ask the city to sign?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually provided Dave with the copy of the royalty and the non-royalty version.
Okay. And would your company be asking for an exclusive agreement, or would the city, as Mr. Watts had pointed out, if another company, for example, your competitor comes along, wants to offer the same service, would you be asking the city to sign an exclusive agreement with HomeServe?
We ask for is that we're exclusive with the use of the logo. And if you choose to provide that to, if there were a competitor that offered a similar service and you chose to provide that, then we have in our agreement that we're able to then opt out if we choose, because that creates confusion if people are getting different things that look similar but aren't quite. So, you know, it's our way of making sure that they understand what it is.
Okay, yeah, I mean, obviously the specific language is what's going to matter on this. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mine's more of a comment. I think that I'd say for us to probably be a little bit cautious about putting our logo on a third party insurance service. You know, the amount of revenue that we would receive is very minimal. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it calculates out to about $600 a month. You know, which obviously you could use to reduce a few payments to some people, but it's not a ton of money. And I would be really concerned about the exclusive agreement, and especially putting our logo on something that, if there is issues, would fall, even if it wouldn't fall on us legally, could fall on us in image. So.
I think making something like this available to the public is not a bad idea. And I'm just not sure about the other concerns. It seems to me that if I was a homeowner and gone through some of the things that David had said, I would think, well, why didn't somebody tell me about an opportunity like this? It might have saved me some money. And as a homeowner, I can see where this is not like other warranties. You know, I've had car warranties that were worthless, quite different than that. And I don't see any big drawback. I don't have a big concern about putting our logo on something that we've talked about. We've listened to your presentation. Sounds good to me. You know, I don't know how much more information we have to have. And well, at that point, if somebody came along and offered a better deal, well, I guess we could still opt out of it. You know, if that was the case. But I don't think that's likely to happen. So I'm actually, my own way of thinking, I'm rather in favor of doing it.
So I think for me, I don't know how much discussion we want to get into about a decision on this, but for me, I feel like the language that we put in the agreement is what would mitigate my concerns. So, and the very clear messaging with any marketing materials that go out, which you stated earlier, we would have control over approving before those went out. So long as those marketing materials or that messaging was very clear, the separation in between the city and a private company, I would feel okay with that if that was done what I'll call correctly. And the other part is just the specifics within the actual contractual agreement in between the city and HomeServe.
As Counselor Miller stated, I'm in favor of seeing what the next step offers before there's any sort of full commitment.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again, it sounds like.
Happy to come back. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, everyone. One other quick question, if I might ask. Where's a good place for dinner? See everybody eating up there and I'm hungry. And I'm like, where can I go for dinner that's local?
Where are you staying?
Well, I'm staying in Portland, close to the airport, because my flight is at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So
Can you wait till that long to eat, or do you want to eat here? We want money in town. Ixtapa.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that a local restaurant.
Ixtapa.
Or Fultano's.
Or Fulton. You can't eat in.
Oh,
Are they not anymore?
if you want to go over closer to your airport, Stanford's is really good too.
Or there's this wood fire pizza kitchen over there. It's all in the Cascade Station area. There's a ton of stuff over there at the airport. But in town, just over by Fred Meyer and McDonald's, there's Ixtapa.
Oh, okay. I
have
think
many
I saw
options.
that one.
This is like a Mexican restaurant, yeah.
I think I saw that when I came in.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Look, or
I
Sam's,
appreciate it.
they're over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam's has good food too.
They're Oriental cuisine, yeah.
Thank you.
Pad Thai is so good.
Go-to. Pad Kima.
Yeah.
All right.
I love
Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. Welcome.
you.
We need an introduction.
Yeah, real quick. So a year ago, Scappoose Bay presented to you just kind of with an update since then. Through our IGA, they've been working on several projects. They're here tonight to give you a quick rundown on that. Talk about the upcoming Reach F project. I'm gonna guess we're gonna run over. We're gonna be pushing it at 30 minutes, so try to get through it. If not, maybe we carry it over. With that, I will let them introduce their own team since there's multiple. And
Hello. I just wanted to. I'm going to present probably the least of everyone up here. My microphone not
Right
on.
up close.
Does this work?
A little better, yeah.
Okay.
Are they hearing online okay?
Oh, can you hear speakers online?
Oh, you're fine.
maybe just grab Emily's.
Is he muted?
He's muted.
Does this work a little better?
Yeah.
Great. So I just want to say very quickly, I'm going to let my colleagues do most of the talking today, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce myself since this is the first chance I've had to address the Scappoose City Council. My name is Andy Magi. I am the new Watershed Council Coordinator for the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. I've been on the job for about 3 months. But before coming back to Scappoose, Scappoose was the first city that I called home here in Oregon when my family moved here. And my family's been here for 25 years. So I'm very excited to be back and be back in this capacity, helping build thriving waterways for our community and for the fish that have historically called those creeks and streams home. I look forward to continuing our partnership with the city of Scappoose, which in the short period of time I have very quickly learned is an important, critical partnership for the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. And I certainly want to thank all of you and Director Sukau for his work in bringing us together and helping create that partnership. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Emily, and our partner and colleague with LSEP, Marcy, to take you through the rest of our presentation today. But I'll be around to introduce myself more.
Thank you. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. It's a pleasure to be able to meet all of you. To start out with, we're going to go to the next slide just so that we can reorient ourselves to place and the specific area that we are talking about. This is the section known as the South Scappoose Creek Restoration Project, which was done in Veterans Park in 2019. As you can see on the next slide, we did a lot of work to restore as close to the original picture of the creek as possible with bank laybacks and with a lot of plants that were planted on the project site. This, as you can see on the next slide, has led to many benefits, including the development of the IGA. But I also want to stress that it has benefited the community, watershed, and as you can see on the next slide, city of Scappoose. Not only has this project been crucial for developing green infrastructure, but it has also helped aid in the reduction of flood damage due to high water events. There was a beautiful news clip in 2019 that showed some of the high flooding that happened. Unfortunately, since we all have busy lives, I did not include that video for us to watch, but you can find it on YouTube after a few interesting Google searches. So one of the things we're here to discuss today is the fact that we are replanting sections of Veterans Park, which you can see on the next slide. So the obvious question is, why do this replanting project when we already did the planting? Well, the sad reality is that you can put as many plants into the ground as you want, but you will still have some mortality events just because of unforeseen circumstances. So we are going to infill the areas that plants have suffered mortality with new plants. And we are also going to push the restoration area back in 2 key locations. We'll discuss that in more detail further down the presentation. There are 3 benefits that will come from this project, and they include increased vegetation coverage, better water quality management for the city of Scappoose and its community, as well as volunteer opportunities and education for the community. As you can see on the next slide, we're going to help increase vegetation coverage. This is critical because it will provide shade, which will reduce temperatures, and it will mitigate erosion, which lead to water quality management, which we will discuss on the next slide. One of the things that was recently done was DEQ and EPA issued a TMDL agreement to have cities develop plans to reduce mercury getting into the water system. One of the things that is really critical water quality management, ensuring that the sediment runoff can't make it into the creek systems and thus into the Scappoose Bay. Increased vegetation will aid with that. But last and certainly not least is importance of ensuring that we can provide the community with volunteer service opportunities and community education, which is where my partner, Marcy Cross, her organization can come in and help us.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for having me here. So my name is Marcy again, and I'm a restoration ecologist with the Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership. So our program has robust science programs that we do. We also have a robust community program, and I work specifically with the community program team. And so if you want to advance to the next slide, the goal of our community program team is really to kind of overlay opportunities for school-age children through adults to engage in the work of getting outside, connecting with the water, connecting with river riparian areas throughout the Lower Columbia. And we are excited to be working here in this watershed with our partners and with you all at the Veterans Park Project. So this is something that we do as an organization throughout the Lower Columbia. And I'm new. I've been since April. I've been with the Estuary Partnership, and I'm really seeing like opportunities where we can leverage existing projects that are underway is like a great opportunity for us to kind of overlay this community engagement onto really good restoration projects that are in progress. This is an example of that. And just to advance to the next slide, the Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership has new leadership since 2020. In the summer of 2020, we got a new executive director, and we've undergone some rethinking and reorienting and updated our mission statement, which is to restore and care for the waters and ecosystems of the Lower Columbia River for current and future generations of fish, wildlife, and people. And with that, we created some new overarching initiatives that we really want to do. And this project really embodies a lot of that in terms of developing authentic partnerships, engaging more people, thinking about climate resiliency. So this work is really going to be helping us to achieve our goals. And also it's really going to be helping to engage the community of Scappoose more in with the water and with the river, because we'll be able to bring more capacity and more resources to the project along with the Watershed Council.
If you would please advance to the next slide, I'm going to go over a little bit more about the project plan, as well as discuss how this is going to be utilized for future projects such as the REACH F project. So as you can see from the slide, we have planted approximately 400 stakes on the lower section of the bench, basically the edge that meets the water line. Next phase of the project is to host a volunteer planting day and landowner workshop on February 26th. The reason we're doing a workshop as well as a volunteer day is because we have many landowners that want to do their restoration work on their properties, but because of size, because of their location, don't necessarily meet requirements to do a grant-funded project. But there's no reason why they can't learn to do the work themselves. We're going to teach people how to make cuttings. We are also going to be installing 1,200 bare root plants, trees, and shrubs, and having school-age children as well as members of the community participate in planting these plants. Let's take a look at the next slide, which showcases the map. The area in yellow is going to be planted with all of our bare root shrubs and trees. It is based on existing areas that were planted. However, as you can see, There are two areas that are marked with arrows that point to areas that are going to be pushed past the existing planting zone. When I did a map analysis, we planted approximately almost 3,000 acres or square feet of land with plants. We want to push that to 3,200. The ideal riparian buffer zone is about 50 feet from the water line, top of wherever the landscape ends. We're going to be pushing that top area of the bench, which is right above the red polygon, by about 111 feet approximately. And the second arrow that you can see is pointing to a small section in between, I think it's the bathroom, and the baseball field. We're going to push that little section by about 26 feet. The reason those areas were selected is because it keeps grass available for the park, but it really starts to create more of that buffer we need to create shade, vegetation coverage, and a really beautiful area for the community.
Molly, can I interrupt real quick? Just one thing I want to bring to your attention though is that it is with your permission. That is one of the takeaways from tonight is because you can see there's an expansion of the project from where that boundary currently is. I wanted to run past you guys to see if that was something that council was comfortable with, or if we want to keep it to the boundaries that we are, because this would take away potential open space of the park. Is everybody there familiar with that region, the property? But without your blessing, we won't expand that boundary. This is just a proposed project. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you so much, Dave, for saying that. I do want to reiterate, if the council for any reason feels that they do not want to see that grass get taken away, we will stick within the existing boundaries and just plant where there already have been plants planted. And to talk about the future, as we will see on the next slide, this type of partnership that we have developed, what we're going to be using to continue the work that's going to be done for the Reach F section. I don't have a map, unfortunately, because I didn't want to create a 27 PowerPoint slideshow. But basically, this partnership will help us not only continue to increase the stream miles that are restored, but we can continue to work to engage the community so that they develop a sense of connection to the parks and so that we can help the city and the watershed successfully manage water quality within the Scappoose Bay. As my colleague Andy previously mentioned, your city is part of one of the key areas within our watershed that funnels water directly into the Scappoose Bay and ultimately out to the Columbia River. So we want to do as much as we can to not only create healthy watersheds for the future, but to create a community that is connected to the watershed. I'd love to answer any questions you may have and just address any concerns.
Thank you for your work, and in my opinion, it creates a better stream bank to go into those areas with vegetation, then we should do it. Do it right for the environment, not a little open space. Because there's plenty of open space there, and I don't think it's taking up that much.
Yeah, we just didn't want to start to do that without getting a sense of feedback. Potential space. It's not an overutilized. I mean, I've seen a couple people down there running their dogs in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Different little things, but yeah, we think there would be some benefit to that.
We're all over here on Google Earth
Yeah.
on our phones. If it looks like we're not paying attention, we're zooming in on.
All of this. Which I think.
Yeah, I'm on.
So with the expansion areas, that's just, it looks like just north of the red, am I looking at this correctly?
You are correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Is it gonna be planted so thick that it can't be used for other things? Like you can't, and is that gonna cause an issue for your maintenance of it?
So the maintenance, they actually take care of everything within that buffer watershed. Things we don't. That's kind of our stem. That's kind of and that's where that line goes.
So is this area gonna be posted as kind of like the keep out area too, or is this area still gonna be accessible?
No,
the whole intent is for this to be accessible to the community. So we are going to be planting trees and shrubs, but this is to basically create vegetation that can be utilized by the community.
We're not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So we're not really losing the space. We're just kind of changing what it looks like in essence.
Exactly. We're transforming it from a grassland into more of what you would have seen with what you will see with a riparian forest where you have trees and shrubs. Our goal is to create a vegetation buffer that not only encourage people to access the creek, but will also do the work of weed management for us because once the plants get to a certain size, you don't need to do as much work to control the weeds. I've seen some project sites that have been successfully maintained where maybe have a crew or a couple of volunteer parties go in a few times a year to do weed pulling, or in the case of a contractor, one spray a year just to maintain for blackberry. And that's our goal, is to create a site that is self-maintaining, so it can take care of itself.
So what would be the proximity of what's being, so this is marked as, am I reading this correctly, cuttings?
Yes. So the lower bench tends to get a lot of high water events. So that's one of the reasons we decided to do cuttings. Cuttings are basically sections of branches that have been cut off from the parent plants, usually species like dogwood and willow that self-propagate through that system. And it's a nice way to get some vegetation established, but it's, I'm less sad if a stake washes away versus a bare root plant or a container plant.
When we're referring to the bench, that's that blue area that
To answer any questions about the blue polygon, cottonwood poles are essentially a large version of a cutting. So it's a 9-foot to 10-foot section of a cottonwood tree that is cut to size. The best part about cottonwood is that it establishes, it's already tall, so it can survive the reed canary grass and other non-wanted plants that might potentially suppress some of the smaller plants. It's a really great way to start getting shade, which, as you can see when you go down to the bench, there's really no shade, and we think that's going to help some of the existing plants if we can start getting some shade established. Chose cottonwood poles for that area because it's relatively far proximity from some of the houses, so if the trees start to eventually break and lose limbs, they're just going to do their thing to the creek versus potentially cause damage, and I say that with caution.
And they're likely to live compared to other species which might not be as suited for the area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We
Presentation.
look forward to seeing the project in action.
You're more than
And,
welcome to
the flood event,
volunteer.
I just put it in my calendar, don't worry.
I know the news story you're talking about. I think I was interviewed in it.
You were. It's lovely to meet you in person.
Nice meeting you.
We
Yeah,
love
what-
the work you guys do.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
It was obvious that that work had changed the floodplain in that area just from that flood. You could tell. So,
Just one quick thing that we didn't get time is that this next summer, they will also be working on what they call Reach F, was an extension of that sloping all the way to Smith Road. So stay tuned on that. There's
Oh.
things to come there. That project will actually expand all the way through the grab farm parcels. So
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
work session adjourned. Yeah, well, got a couple of minutes. People need to use the restroom.